Now let the original man of the land tell his side of the story.
That our culture, our law has been raped.
That's our law. It has been existing before the colonization of westernized world.
The Gentiles disregard our existing laws.
Over 2 centuries of conflict, oppression and assimilation have left them fighting for their cultural survival.
Over 200 years of oppression by the British colonizers.
We see the natives gathering in corroboree to ward off the invaders, just as they then did.
They forced these people to do this.
This is how white Australians celebrated 150
They
years
make you
of
look like
settlement,
savages.
which black Australians would describe as invasion.
Before Captain Phillip lands, Lieutenant Ball takes a boatload of Marines ashore to keep the natives in check.
Look how glorious they try to make themselves.
Menacing savages, the white men advance up the shore of the new land.
Especially if there appear to be no women amongst them. Is there any likelihood of an ambush? See that no Indians remain skulking about.
Now Phillip himself lands. So a handful of Englishmen took possession of a continent, a vast, unknown, primeval land.
It is now fitting
Primeval.
that we should turn our minds to the purpose underlying this enterprise, which is to plant a fresh sprig of empire in this new and vast land. It may be that this country will become the most valuable acquisition Britain has ever made.
Translation: murdered a black man and still his land.
The Aborigines taking part in this reenactment were press-ganged into playing roles. They were brought to Sydney and held overnight in a police compound next to dog kennels, and they were warned that if they didn't cooperate, their food rations would be stopped.
Translation: y'all better act like savages or y'all don't eat.
At the white man's school, what are the children taught?
Nothing.
Are they told of the battles our people fought?
They erase black history.
Are they told how our people died? Are they told why our people cried? Australia's true history is never read, but the black man keeps it in his head. Britain waged war against this nation. Massacres as systematic as those practiced against the Jews in the 20th century were carried out in the name of God, King, anthropology, money and land. The jolly swagman was not especially jolly. The billabongs ran with blood. Few or none of these events were recorded and remembered by white Australians. And as the cities grew, the descendants of the white slaves, Australians like myself, seldom glimpsed the other side of the frontier, the outback as we called it. As children, we were given to understand that we were merely innocent bystanders to the slow and natural death of an ancient people, the first Australians, rather than the inheritors of a past every bit as rapacious as that of the United States, Latin America, Africa.
They did it worldwide,
was
people.
unmentionable and secret.
Erased their history like they did ours and gave them a new history called less than them.
How did they get away with it? In Aboriginal cemeteries, the number of children's graves is always disproportionately high. In 1983, 2 researchers using Queensland government statistics found that Aboriginal deaths from preventable infectious diseases in that state were as much as 300 times higher than the white average and among the highest in the world.
Leviticus 26:22. I will also send wild beasts among you, which shall rob you of your children and destroy your cattle and make you few in number, and your highway shall be desolate.
A quarter of Aboriginal males who had survived to the age of 20 were dead by 40. Black Australians may well have the highest prison population in the world.
Just like America.
Convictions related to homelessness, alcoholism, and unemployment have meant, in effect, that to be black is a crime. Black is a crime. Black is a
Worldwide.
crime.
Revelations 2:10. Do not fear what you are about to suffer. Behold, the devil is about to cast some of you into prison so that you will be tested.
All those can never kill the Aboriginal spirit. It can. Man has done terrible things to the Aboriginal man, the physical part of us. It has caused everything you've said it has. The degradation has been there, but that's just a reflection on the European white ways, not the Aboriginal spirit. The Aboriginal spirit is a shining, pure spirit which still is part of this.
I think it is our greatest victory that we have hung on to our humanity. I think it is not true that we have been dehumanised in the way that so many other peoples of the world have been dehumanised by decolonisation, dehumanised by decolonisation, dehumanised by decolonisation.
They thought if they forced us to live like animals, we would begin to act like animals.
The culture is alive and well to this day. We are not here to fade away. We are not here to die out slowly, but we are here to retain our heritage, our beliefs, our spirituality. And that's the way our old people have kept it. And that's the way they are handing it down to us. And that's the way we will hand down to our generation.
Yolngo nyalo uni ora namuna ta yodi amonga tangala kamulka yora kapilmayo kadal karayo mulka yora yang munata yo kakapandu kakamanongo yo.
They try to erase who you are.
Under law, like all and change, because government is always change. Marako Rome, buying on knowing to change. This is law from coming in from Ngada. That's why buying will change.
Translation, we will never change who we are and our laws. They want to change our laws.
In 2007, Gulawinku had a glimpse of hope that things would finally change in their community.
Minister for Business Affairs in the previous government, Minister Honorable Malbrap, when he came here, he introduced himself, we were really happy, we got this man.
What's the material that you're using here? I don't mean the art.
He came, he promises that he's going to give a 50 house. He's going to give a good health, there'll be education and classroom, new buildings, new houses, everything. That was his promises. We said to him, look, this is good, this is the way things need to happen. And so there was a lot of that discussion. But when we start to serious about things, when we start to put our head together and start to talk about serious things, that's where the bombs start.
The government would only improve their services if they signed over control of their land for 99 years. Land theft. Translation, they sent a smooth-talking devil offering gift to talk you out of the control of your land. They always have done it. They did it to Indians, they did it to us, they just keep doing it. Or they just scam you out of it.
What do you want more land for? Go back. Don't tempt us to sign. So he went back.
Do not be tempted by the devil. But 6 months later, they came back. Now you horrible people again.
The federal government is about to intervene in Aboriginal communities in a way thought unimaginable just a few years ago.
We have decided to act. The decisions we have taken are non-negotiable.
The Prime Minister has rejected criticism of his radical plan to curb Indigenous child sexual abuse.
The government's actions came in response to yet another report on the underlying conditions in Aboriginal communities, this time on the symptom of child abuse.
Where there is unemployment, poverty, alcoholism, drug taking, overcrowding, you can guarantee that those children at some point are severely at risk and eventually are going to be sexually abused.
Translation, if you don't sign over your land, then we will accuse you of child abuse. Now we will come in and take your land. Bastards.
In an unprecedented crackdown, the Prime Minister moved to take control.
Every single one of them has pedophiles operating in them. Now that is a national emergency.
The government will seize control of Aboriginal townships and access to lands will be opened up.
We need to have control over the homes, the conditions that they are in, who is in them and what is occurring in those homes.
Why? Why they want to keep coming in our houses and shit, trying to control it?
I don't think you can respect power structures in these communities when clearly those structures have failed to deliver.
I don't think they can respect anything because they devils. Can y'all now see it, people? They devils.
Among his sweeping changes, dozens of extra interstate police will be sent in and 50% of welfare will be quarantined.
They've been doing this to our communities for years, decades, centuries,
niceties,
400 years, yo.
Protection of young children.
What does child abuse have to do with land theft? You know, they coming in and stealing your land and then saying it's because you guys are abusing children. It's idiocy.
That's what this is about. This is what we're trying to do.
We need proper consultation, like from your government. Yeah. Come in here and give us.
Well, we've already done it.
Yeah.
We've already done it.
We already done
this
it.
is already law.
All right.
And the reason for that is that it was an emergency.
We basically a bit upset too, like as being a landowner.
Yeah. We
haven't been consulted.
Yeah.
About,
yeah.
You know.
No. Well, no, that's right.
Here they have raped you, took your culture, they took everything that's good from you, and then they come in and take what little you have left, the filthy damn bastards. Without consulting you of anything, they just pass laws like they're doing in America now, huh?
Without any consultation with Aboriginal landowners, the government seized all community assets and dismantled community-run programs. It brought in white officials to manage the communities, replacing institutions that communities had taken years to build up. Communities across the Northern Territory were devastated.
We have been demonised for mistreating our children, pedophilia, alcohol abuse. What we need to do is to listen to the people when these situations are found to be in any community without passing judgment.
The intervention has further stigmatised Aboriginal people by erecting signs in each of the seized communities, publicly displaying its new laws.
It's really sad. It makes me feel, that means they including all Yolngo, all Bookmark Yolngo. Everybody, every Yolngo doing bad things.
This is what they call a lucky country, but not so lucky up here. We're going through so much pain, many of our old people are going through so much thinking, so much worry.
I got now feeling, it's a pain. It's a real painful. It's a real hurt. Not only me, I am too old, but it's gonna be that the feelings will be continue dragging to the next generation to come.
That history is based also on the legal fiction which established for them that they legitimately owned this country. They call it terra nullius, in other words, empty continent. The law says that we did not exist in 1788. Therefore, the continent was empty, uninhabited wasteland, and therefore the British had a right to occupy it. So you see, there have never been treaties here because we didn't exist legally to sign a treaty with them.
The Aborigines were deemed to be subhuman, little more than animals, which was to justify not only the theft of their land, but their extermination, but their extermination, but their extermination, but their extermination, but their extermination.
As y'all see, the devil don't change his way. Everywhere he goes, he does the same thing. Just like I said, they came here on a meteorite. They came here by Nibiru, the pit. They actually did. The Bible states that. They landed in hell and underneath our ground. They emerged and then they start taking over. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth, for the devil has come down to you with great wrath.
So this is Australia. And is that the Australian flag?
Yes. The Union Jack in the corner is a reminder that the British originally colonized Australia.
And what do the stars stand for?
The large star has 7 points. 6 of these points represent Australia's 6 states. Their capital cities are on the coast. The 7th point stands for Australia's territories. 2 are on the mainland. Canberra is the federal capital of the 6 states and all the territories.
And the smaller stars?
They represent the constellation of the Southern Cross, visible mainly south of the equator. They are reminders that Australia is in the southern hemisphere.
You Australians have a mighty big country.
We do. But most of us live in the cities on the coast, on the coast, on the coast. Over 1 million live in Sydney and another 1 million in Melbourne. Most of the rest of Australia's 7 million people are also found in the southeast.
Why are you all so crowded into one corner?
But this is the good country. Our best farmlands are here, and our industries are here.
Why is so much of Australia empty?
Because there's not enough water in the back country. You see, the prevailing winds in this zone are the southeast trades. As they blow off the ocean, they are full of moisture. When they reach the mountain wall of the eastern highlands, the southeast trade winds lose most of their moisture on the windward slopes. Back of the mountains, there is little rainfall. Here is the Central Basin, drained by Australia's only large river system. Still farther west on the Great Plateau, there is very little water. This land is mostly desert. Rain-bearing winds are very important to us Australians. All year the prevailing winds bring rain to the eastern highlands. In summer, tropical monsoons lash the northern coast. In winter, the westerlies bring gentler rains to the southern coast. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. Only a narrow margin receives an annual rainfall of 30 inches or more. Farther inland is a zone where the rainfall is between 15 and 30 inches a year. And in this area, rainfall is even less. So you see, it's important to remember, first, that Australia has 3 major regions: the Eastern Highlands, the Central Basin, and the Great Plateau of the West. Second, that the rainfall is confined mainly to the coastal areas. And third, that the good country where most of us live is only a small part of a large continent. Now let's have a look at it. In large cities like Sydney, we find most of the people. Sydney is the site of Australia's first settlement. Today it is the 3rd largest city in the British Commonwealth and Australia's main port. From many wharves along Sydney's long harbour line, the produce of Australia is shipped to other parts of the world. Most of Australia's exports go to the United Kingdom and other British countries.
What's the leading export?
Animal products, meats such as beef and mutton, which cross the sea in refrigerated ships. Animal products also include hides and skins, used for making shoes and suitcases.
Those are bales of wool, aren't they?
Yes. Australia produces more than 1/4 of the world's wool. Australian wool is valued for its uniform texture. Next in export value is wheat. Wheat that helps provide bread for the peoples of the United Kingdom.
waterfront at Sydney is surely a busy place.
Well, you'll find it interesting in the business section too. We'll see there some things Australia must import.
There seem to be a lot of cars here.
Yes. Many of them are brought in from other countries. Many large industrial machines are imported too. Oils and petrol and rubber for tires must be imported, and chemicals and drugs. Along this narrow street we'll see shops displaying textiles and clothing. Some of them were woven or tailored in faraway Britain out of Australia's own wool. Tea and coffee are shipped in from overseas. For most of its paper, Australia imports timber and wood pulp. Now suppose we see how the Australian people live. In the larger cities, many people live in flats, but more people live in houses. City homes are usually brick or concrete. And scattered among the homes are churches of several denominations and modern schools. Older boys and girls go to separate schools. They include students from out back.
What does it look like, out back?
Well, the quickest way to show you is to fly. Here below us we see many factories, symbols of Australia's rapidly growing industry. Now we're over the Blue Mountains, a part of the Eastern Highlands. Over these mountains the early Australian pioneers moved westward into the back country. And here are the irrigated farmlands of the Central Basin. In this region of limited rainfall, much fertile soil has become productive because of a state program for water conservation. This is the Hume Dam across the Murray River. It marks the most important water conservation project in Australia. Farther out back, there are large stations, or what in America would be called ranches. And here is one of them. Each station must have its bore, or well as you would call it. The precious water from the bore is stored in a tank for household use. Throughout the Central Basin, very deep artesian bores provide enough water for raising livestock in spite of the limited rainfall. Australia's fine flocks include more than 100 million sheep. On the average, each sheep gives almost 10 pounds of wool a year.
Tell me, why do you sometimes call the back country the bush?
The bush is where animals and plants may be seen in their natural conditions. The bush is the home of the kangaroo, one of the unusual animals native to Australia. A young kangaroo spends much time in its mother's pouch until it's quite large.
I'd like to see a kangaroo run.
And there goes one now. Do you know that a kangaroo can jump as fast as a horse can run? Now we'll go on across the continent by the Trans-Australian Railway. On the treeless plains of the Great Plateau, the railway may run several hundred miles in a straight line. Never does it cross one permanent stream. The water for the gold mining town of Kalgoorlie in Western Australia was brought more than 300 miles over the mountains. Production of gold exceeds in value Australia's production of other minerals, such as coal, lead, silver, and iron. Today, Western Australia produces 80% of the country's gold. Now finally, let's take a look at the capital city, Canberra. Here the wise use of water has made a garden city on the site of an old sheep run. Here is the National Library. And here is Parliament House, the seat of the government of one of the world's great democracies, Australia, the expansive island continent of the southern hemisphere.
The Aborigines were deemed to be subhuman, little more than animals, which was to justify not only the theft of their land, but their extermination, but their extermination, but their extermination, but their extermination, but their extermination.